SoFi is down over 70% from its high just half a year ago, and it's getting dangerously close to penny stock territory. So a reverse stock split could be on the horizon for SoFi, but what does that mean for us as investors or just as users of the SoFi platform? All right, let's jump right into it. What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So last week, news broke that SoFi will hold a meeting on July 12th of 2022, where investors will vote on whether or not the company can enact a reverse stock split. And with the price continuing to sink lower and lower week after week, they might not have any choice going forward. But what is a reverse stock split, and why does it even matter for SoFi as a whole? Well, similar to how companies will sometimes split their stock if the price goes too high, a reverse stock split is the exact opposite of that, where a company will consolidate the number of existing shares, meaning there will be fewer shares available, but the price of each of those shares will go up. There's a number of reasons why a company would do something like this, but more often than not, it is just because the price of a stock has gone too low, and the company wants to incentivize investors to buy by raising the price of that stock, essentially artificially. And right now, it's being reported that SoFi is considering either a 1-for-2 ratio or a 1-for-10 ratio, meaning if one share of SoFi stock is at $5 per share at the time of the reverse stock split, then that price would immediately jump to $10 per share if they go with a 1-for-2 ratio, and it would jump all the way to $50 per share if they went for the 1-for-10 ratio. Now, I do want to clarify here that SoFi investors at that July 12th meeting are simply voting on whether or not SoFi has the power to enact a reverse stock split should they have to. They are not voting on whether or not this is a good idea or if this reverse stock split will actually happen. And actually, SoFi's own CEO, Anthony Noto, was quoted saying, quote, "This is in case of emergency. We're going through a dislocation now, and we want to give our board the option if we enter an even more irrational market. It in no way communicates our confidence in the business or future." So take that with a grain of salt because he's the CEO of the company, so what do you expect him to say? That being said, Anthony Noto has continued to purchase millions of dollars in SoFi stock over the past several months, and as we've talked about in previous videos, typically insider buying means that they believe the company is headed in a positive direction. Otherwise, why would they be investing in the company? Okay, so a reverse stock split is not necessarily a guarantee for SoFi at this point. But again, why is this such a big deal? And if this were to happen, what does that mean for us as investors? Well, to the first question, the magic number here is $5 per share. And I say that because despite their very misleading name, generally any stock that is below $5 per share is considered what's called a penny stock. And other than the fact that the price continuing to go down is generally a bad thing, when a stock enters penny stock territory, it can sometimes lead it to being delisted from certain exchanges, removed from different index and mutual funds, and in a lot of ways, just devalues the stock across the board. But over the past several weeks, it has really hovered in that $5 to $7 range, so technically not a penny stock at the moment, but definitely close enough to make a lot of investors, myself included, pretty nervous. Now, if a reverse stock split were to take place, again, for us as investors, this really doesn't mean anything at all. We may see some short-term price fluctuations as a result of a stock split, or reverse stock split in this case, but the total value of our shares does not change, and the only difference is that you will now have fewer shares, but each share will be worth more. So let's say that right now you own 100 shares of SoFi at $5 per share, just for the sake of simplicity. Well, if there were to be a 1-for-10 reverse stock split, that would mean that you would now only own 10 shares of SoFi, but each stock would be worth $50 per share. So 100 shares at $5 per share is $500 total, but 10 shares at $50 per share is also $500 total. So at the end of the day, it's really the same pie, you just have fewer, larger pieces, if that makes sense. And in a normal forward stock split, it's the exact same thing, just in the opposite direction. So you would own more shares, but each share would be worth less. Like I said, many times when a company has to enact a reverse stock split, a lot of investors view that as financial stress or general panic within the company. And while there may be some of that going on here with SoFi, since they are operating at razor-thin margins and are really burning money hand over fist in order to fund growth, I don't personally view a reverse stock stock split as a panic button for SoFi investors. As we have talked about in many previous videos on this topic, the fundamentals for SoFi are really good. They are continuing to grow at a rapid pace and have made some strategic acquisitions over the past year of some different companies that have allowed them to stand well above their competition. Just a few months ago, they received their national banking charter, launched some new products as a result of that, and their recent quarterly financial reports have exceeded the expectations for most major financial metrics. But despite all of that good news, general market fears, rising interest rates, continued forbearance on student loans, and a general beatdown of tech stocks over the past few months has really taken a massive chunk out of SoFi's stock price. Now, if you want a more analytical breakdown of my thoughts on all of this, I have made several previous videos on that topic. But let's answer the question that many of you have asked me, and that is, what do I think of this potential reverse stock split, and should we as SoFi investors be concerned about it? First of all, I'd say it's really a toss-up right now on whether or not this will even happen. Again, SoFi's own CEO said that this is simply for emergency use if they have to save themselves from penny stock territory. In fact, Anthony Noto's own words were, quote, "if we enter an even more irrational market," which I think really sums up this entire conversation. Yes, there have been negative catalysts that we've talked about at length, but losing over 70% of your value from its high for a company that financially is really healthy on paper and is continuing to grow at a rapid pace is just that, irrational. It's unfortunate for retail investors like you and I who bought in on positive fundamentals and positive news only to see our portfolios absolutely decimated over the past few months, but sometimes that's just how this kind of thing goes. And I want to remind you, as many of you have reminded me, that you really aren't losing anything until you sell. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your investment because, as always, that needs to be a decision that you make for yourself. But here is my plan going forward with a potential reverse stock split hanging in the balance for SoFi. Personally, I don't really see this reverse stock split actually happening unless there was some kind of completely unforeseen variable that we don't currently know about. But with everything that we currently do know, including the irrational market conditions, SoFi stock appears to have found somewhat of a bottom, hopefully, and I think that it would take a huge negative catalyst to push the price well below the $5 mark for an extended period of time. Again, though, that is just my opinion, and I could be wrong, as I have been many times before. But even if this reverse stock split were to take place, as I've said a million times before, this is a long-term investment for me personally, meaning I don't plan on cashing in my chips for at least 5 to 10 years, if not longer. That being said, it would not surprise me if the investors do vote on July 12th to allow SoFi the power to enact a reverse stock split should they have to. Since this is for an emergency use only, as Anthony Noto had previously stated, it really doesn't hurt to have that option in their back pocket should they have some random negative catalyst that is not currently known to the market. That way, they could push the panic button and instantly double or 10x their stock price by consolidating shares, and while we would likely see some short-term market fluctuations, since again, a lot of investors get a little weird about reverse stock splits, ultimately it would even out and investors, as well as the total market cap of SoFi, would be right back where it started prior to the reverse stock split. But I'd also love to know what you think of this stock right now and whether or not you think a reverse stock split will actually happen for SoFi and what your game plan is going forward with so much uncertainty surrounding this investment. Be sure to check out some of my favorite financial tools using those links down below the like button, many of which will give you some free cash when you sign up, which we always love. As always, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it so much. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.